Yeah, so Jack and I are going to talk about relationships. And I was just thinking when I was listening to Reading Jenny, how do I follow that? You know? So I can only speak from where I am at the moment. And one of the things that cropped up for me when I saw that I was going to be talking about relationships was, how can I do that? I'm not in a relationship. Because I'd limited that word to being with another person. And I fairly soon saw through that. I saw that relationships is everything. You know, we are in a relationship at the moment. We're having a conversation together. That's a relationship. I can be in a conversation with nature. That's a relationship. There are so many different flavors of relationship. And behind all those flavors, how do I experience that? How do I experience these relationships? I experience that through the principles. That's the only way I can ever experience anything. This subject matter called relationships. I create my experience through the three principles. They're creating it for me. And so that's what I'd like to touch on, Jack. If that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
To, how do we experience relationships?
I hope you're not asking me.
So, if the only way I can ever experience anything in this human form is through mind, thought and consciousness, you know, it's a one-way process. It only works one way. I can make it up at any moment. I'm having a unique personal experience coming from that through me of everybody sitting here. I'm making that experience up. You're making your experience up of Jack and I. You know, that when I think about that, it blows my mind. Every single one of us is having a slightly or a very different experience. You know? And that's coloured by maybe beliefs, opinions, what we think we know, what we know about relationships. It's like, I was reminded, Jack, of your drawing of the ear.
They don't know that.
No. No?
Yes.
But I'm going to do a slightly different drawing, because it's how it occurred for me with regard to relationships. Not very good at stick figures. My stick figures would come out.
Plagiarism.
Yes, I did ask your permission though. That's an ear, and it's an ear on both parties. But that ear can have belief, ego, judgment, and some more, Jack.
Distraction.
Distraction.
What I know.
What I know.
That's good enough.
How many times do we have conversations with the people we love or the people we work with via that? You know, mind, thought and consciousness is helping us create our own experience. But that can get in the way. That can be like the filters that we put on if we've got glasses, you know? I could have pink glasses on and I see you all through those pink glasses of any of those, or all of them. Same thing happens with you. It can, can't it?
Never happens to me, Gillian.
You're the exception. So I just thought that'd be interesting to just have a look at that. And I think I've done enough talking.
Hey. So I thought it was very ironic that I was assigned this topic, because I used to think that I knew something about relationships. And I was in like Rudy and Jenny, I was in a 10-year relationship that was just incredible. And then it disappeared on me. And I was thinking, I don't know anything about relationships anymore. Until I just heard Rudy and Jenny, and they solved the whole thing, just like that. So I don't know much what to say about it. I do want to pick up on, well, there's a couple of things. First of all, these breakout sessions are supposed to be more of a interactive kind of thing. So I really want to encourage you to, ask questions and make comments and stuff. But I wanted to pick up on one thing that Rudy said that I think went by very quickly, because I had my own personal experience of this. So I noticed when my partner Amy broke up with me, that I went into despair. But and then I noticed I went into anger, then I went into fear, and then I went into gratefulness. These are in no particular order. And then I went into compassion, and then I went into worry about my future, and then I went into all kinds of other things. Okay? And all of a sudden I realized that the breakup of my relationship did not mean despair. It meant whatever emotion, which is thought-based, whatever emotion that comes from thought that I had in that second, for as long as that emotion lasted, that's what the breakup of the marriage, not married, we weren't married, all of a sudden we're married. Whoa. It felt like it, I'll tell you. It really was amazingly powerful. But what that meant to me, what it meant to me only lasted as long as the thought I had about it. It didn't mean any one thing. It meant that for this particular period of time. And then it was gone and it meant something else. And then it was gone and it meant something else. And then it was gone and it meant something else. That really amazed me when I had that insight. And it's funny because where I want to land and where I have actually landed at this point is in the realm of gratefulness. I just absolutely love what we had together. I love that I was blessed with 10 years of the most beautiful relationship that I could imagine. Well, 9 and 9. 10th year was a little... But yeah, it was really a blessing for my life. And So I have landed in this period of gratefulness. And I really hadn't slipped out of it for a while now. But before, when I was in that, from emotion to emotion to emotion to emotion, it really didn't look like it was even possible to land there. Until I did for a few moments, and then it was gone. So I just wanted to underscore what Rudy said about that. And how about you? How about you? Anything you have to say, or any questions you have to ask?
Yeah, for me,
Yes.
the pain of breaking up from a relationship can be so unbearable that I will keep myself in the relationship in order to avoid that pain.
Wow.
Listening to what you've just said and to what Rudy was saying before, it's sort of opened a door for me. It's made me realise that I was thinking it's just me who suffers that bad, that everyone suffers, even though Rudy had all that insight 10 minutes after like she'd broken up with him. I thought, because it was happy ever after for him then. And then he said no, he had like 3 months of just unbearable suffering. And I don't know how that's helping, but I feel in some way a little bit stronger that maybe I have got the strength to end this relationship which I'm in, which it's not an ideal relationship, but like I say, I'm staying in because I avoid, I'm avoiding the pain of the breakup. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It's a really interesting thing to stay in a relationship that's painful so that we won't have pain. It's like the pain we know is okay, but the pain we don't know is worse.
Yeah.
We make both of those things up with our own thinking. It's just amazing. Yeah.
Can I say something to that?
Yes.
My last relationship, I kept getting, this isn't for you. This isn't for
This
you.
isn't
On
for
an
you.
internet, and I thought, I'm not listening to that. This is great. This is just what I want. And I kept, it kept coming. And I usually listen to my guidance, but this I was going to cling on to because it hadn't come along. It had been some time, and I thought it looks perfect on the outside. We'll keep going with this one. And then it carried on for about 3 years, and then one day I suddenly thought, I've got too much self-esteem to stay in this relationship, and it hit me because I'd never thought that, I'd never seen it from that angle, and it was like, and to turn around to somebody who I did love and say, I have got too much self-esteem to stay with you at the moment because he was untrustworthy, blah, blah, blah. And it was like that one of the greatest moments of my life because I thought, yeah, okay, I'm going to listen to this from now on and I'm just not going to stay in it. So, yeah, I'd offer you that.
Wow, and that's so beautiful too, because I actually had a similar experience, but from the other end.
Okay.
When I first saw Amy, okay, just when I first laid eyes on her, I heard this voice in my head that was really loud and clear, and it said, "She's the one." And I was like, whoa, where did that come from? Who's talking in my head? And I didn't consciously go out of my way to say that. I heard it, and I don't know where I heard it from, but I heard it loud and clear. So when she ended up splitting up with me, I had this thought, wait a minute, she was supposed to be the one. And then I realized something. She was the one for that period of time. And I learned so much through that relationship, and I grew so much through that relationship that it was like, well, talk about a learning curve, it was just amazing. And it's only when we have thoughts of future, which has like expectation attached to it, that we lose sight of the moment. Yeah.
But like you, I also saw that my relationship with him had actually shown me a side of myself that I didn't even know existed. So that was the gift to me.
Yes.
And the gift has always stayed with me.
Yeah.
The heartbreak came and it went, but the gift was...
Wouldn't it be incredible to see every relationship in our lives, good and bad, as a gift? And the gift is for us to learn something, for the growth of our souls,
Yeah.
I could say. And if we are able to have that be the focus, we're going to be fine no matter what kind of a relationship we find ourselves in. Yes?
Yeah, and if nothing else, then it can be a huge learning in listening or not to that voice you're all talking about. I had a client, he said he came to me because he had so many problems with his ex-wife. She was trying in any way to spoil his life through kids and the stuff they earned together and everything. And he said he didn't want to marry, but he thought he ought to because of this and that. And when he stood in the church, there was a voice as clear as what you described, and it said to him when she approached, said, "Run." And he said he was like you, like, who's talking in my head? And he said, if nothing else, I really learned to listen.
Did he run?
No, that's why he came. That's why he came after all this trouble had.
But I remember growing up, and I remember this really clearly, being in my mum's kitchen and putting the kettle on, and suddenly this thought came into my head: I don't want to be alive. And I heard that voice as clear as anything. You know, it was like Sesame Street, like, you know, what? Like, I'm a happy person. I like my life. I did. Where on earth did that voice come from? What the hell is that about? I have no idea. I have no idea to this day. And to this day, occasionally that voice comes in, hate my life. Occasionally, the other voice comes in, love my life. And all these other thoughts come in. Lots of them come in. They come and go, and they can be completely opposing. And none of them mean anything unless I attach something. Unless I pull them in and make them mine. They're just a thought. It can come in and go, fucking hell, where did that come from? And then the kettle boils and I make my cup of tea and I get on with it and I forget about it. And do I pay attention to it? No. So why do I pick some thoughts to pay attention to and some thoughts I don't pay attention to? I've no idea. I can't answer that. Maybe you can.
Just speaking for myself now, okay? I really can hear the difference when I hear a voice of wisdom and when it's coming from my habitual thinking. And I tend to trust the wisdom voice, and I tend to not trust the habitual thinking voice. And to me, it sounds like a different voice. It has a different feeling quality attached to it. There's a certainty with the wisdom voice that I am willing to like throw myself into its guidance, you could say. Whereas, and I also have a rule of thumb that if we don't know whether it's the voice of wisdom or some other voice, it's not the voice of wisdom. It's just not. Because it's loud and clear. Actually, Gabriella told me once, you know, I was I was caught between two relationships. I didn't know what to do. She said to me, wait for clarity. It took me 2.5 months to hear clarity. I was very patient. But when I heard it, it was unmistakable. Unmistakable.
And it's almost like it has a different sound to it, a different way of appearing in your mind. It's like whoosh, suddenly out of nowhere. There's a voice, and it's not something that you've been thinking about. It's just something that comes into your head. I lost my husband some years ago now, and before we knew he was ill, we were actually living on a boat, and he'd driven off somewhere, and I was standing in the galley doing the washing up, and out of nowhere came this voice, he's going to die, you know. What? That was just so strange. But it kind of had a truth to it. No, you know, I've got this beautiful life. We're living the dream. We've got this thing planned for so long. And within a few months, yeah, it happened. And it's kind of like you're frozen in time almost for a second when that it just came in. And it's gone. And then I went, must have made that one up. But I can still remember that moment.
I didn't listen for many years I haven't really listened. And I really believe that, we still love each other, but it's over. And I didn't listen to that inner voice, because I believed I could fix it. I really believed that love would conquer all. We both loved each other, we always have. But this voice came, and you cannot fix this. You have to walk away, you have to end this for both of you, because you're both so unhappy. So clear. And out externally, we were the perfect couple, everybody loved us, we were great, we appeared to love each other. Well, we still do, but this clarity, this wisdom just came through so strongly and so clearly. But I couldn't accept it. I kept thinking, no, because we love each other. At the end of the day, or whatever it is, that's what counts, surely. But it just wasn't working, and I kept denying it. It was more and more painful, more and more painful. And 4 days ago, I just knew we love each other so much that it has to end. But I believed that I could fix it through loving, and it wasn't my right to believe I could fix this. But he is completely on his journey, and I've accepted that now. And as soon as the minute I accepted it, there's this whoosh, when you said the whoosh, it just all fell away, all this baggage, all this, and I saw the dust on the coffee table. Having been so unhappy and so desperate and so in so much pain for so long, and I just see things like the way the dog runs through the woods, and I was seeing the things I do all the time, but I was seeing them with such clarity, and all the pain just sloughed away, because I actually went, okay, I held my hands up, I just have to go with my wisdom and my true belief, because I tried to fight it, which is making everything 1,000 times worse. Right. But I just believed that love we could fix this, but I took too much on my shoulders, believe me.
When it truly is wisdom, if we fight it, we're going to, I was going to say be in trouble.
Yeah, big trouble.
I don't know if that's the term, but something, if we fight wisdom, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, on the other hand, if there's a difficult marriage or relationship or something like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is doomed. Because people can have a huge change of thought. I keep looking at Suzanne back there. I don't know if you're willing to say something about
Yeah.
what happened to you.
When I first came into the Free Principles, I think a little more than 3 years ago, I was touched by the videos on YouTube, Elsie Spittle and Chip and Jan Chipman, telling about their marriages, how they were a mess long time ago, and how they, over time, had the most beautiful relationship, marriage. And I thought, how is that possible? I felt my marriage was falling apart. I think my husband was not really aware of it, but he was very often extremely angry. And it was that bad that actually my daughter went away from home and moved away very early. And I don't think he ever had known the reason why she moved when she was only in high school, 17, 18 years ago. She was 18 years a year, yeah. But then I came into the Free Principles, and I remember one day I was standing at the dishwashing machine, and my husband always used to say to me, well, you fill that dishwashing machine totally wrongly. You should go on a dishwashing machine seminar. And I thought, he was so mad at me, he thought it should be in a certain way. And I'd heard that many times, every time I did that wrong, I took it, I felt guilt, and, we kind of had a quarrel. And then suddenly one day, after having been on a seminar with Jack, I could just suddenly see that it had nothing to do with me, nothing at all. And I could see it all came from him. Like when he was driving the car and thinking that the guy ahead in the car in front of him was terrible. He got very upset at him, for driving too slowly. I could see it had nothing to do with that guy in front of him because he never met him. So how could he know that that guy was a jerk? But suddenly I saw that, and that kind of changed the whole relationship over time. Because I could kind of smile at him and kind of tease him a bit, or I would walk away if he was too low in his thinking. And today, I never thought that was possible. We had such a loving relationship. It's even growing better and better every day. I have such love for him and compassion for him. And it's very seldom he's angry or upset with me. He's not into the Free Principles. But I think it only takes one person to change. He has changed as well, because I changed my way of seeing him or approaching him.
And that's the only way that change happens. is if we change from within and affect the circle of people that we interact with, even if it's one person in a relationship. And I just want to say, just before we close, because I just got the... I want to say that it's not like you can try to make that happen, like what Suzanne went through. You can't try to make that happen, but we can be open to the possibility that something like that can happen. And if we get that insight, if we have that insight, new insight, anything is possible. I think that's it.